And here we are. Welcome to another live podcast. This time we're going out across the globe. Well, we always go across the globe, but I don't know how much of a globe actually pays attention, and they should. And if they did, they get great stuff out of it because it's Speak on Stage. Today's session is how to combine AI and EI to boost leadership and employee engagement. That basically means if we were to look at all the things that happen in AI, which we will talk about, and all the things that happened over the last 10 years or so with emotional intelligence, and we put them together, does that make your workforce more engaged? Does it mean you're going to make more money and be more successful? Or have people not started thinking about it, but too busy going, no, that's going to take our jobs? We will find out. That's why you should stick around and join the gang. We're all here, and this is Speak on Stage. And there we go. We're scheduled to start in a minute, but I reckon we should just go live now and take the extra 60 seconds to just enjoy ourselves. We're joined by Debbie Gray and my wife, Aziza Crane. And the subject today should be rather juicy. We talk about AI all the time because it's a really good way to get people interested in conversations. But even if we don't talk about it, AI sometimes comes up anyway. And everyone's got it somehow in their head, but I don't know how much people are going to engage that subject and be transparent about it, because I think lots of people have challenges when it comes to EI anyway. But before we start anyway, hello to you, Debbie. How are you today?
I am very well, thanks, Dave. How are you? And how are you, Aziza?
Aziza, over to you.
I'm good, thank you. Been quite a week. Just been doing that project I told you about. It's really different.
That makes great radio, by the way. That project I told you about off air, and it's been different. Everyone.
No. It was actually on air. Let me see if I remember this correctly. Where you challenged yourself and you took the role to interpret a funnel for a German company. Is that the one?
That's the one.
Boom! How about that?
That was the one. I can't believe I did it. So the last review will be this Monday. So we'll see whether I will do more international languages or just stick to English.
Congratulations. Well done. You took the challenge and you've obviously been very successful because you've got to the finishing line.
Thank you.
We're all very proud of you.
How about you?
Me?
Yeah.
This week, very few challenges, just adjusting to being home alone, empty nester, and looking forward to exciting adventures that lie ahead. And hello, Joanne, that's joined us and is listening in.
Hello to Joanne. I'm going to ask you guys, let's let everybody know that we're live now just by reposting it to your feed with a share button. And then let's see how many people are going to come out to play and join us. It might just be the four of us chatting, which is more than fine for me. We'll give it an hour and see how it goes from there. But we may be so pleasantly surprised because the different time of doing it on a Friday, especially 5 o'clock UK time on a Friday, means people are kind of letting their hair down and saying, okay, yeah, I'm still around, but I'm kind of ready for the weekend. And so I'm looking forward to see what that will translate into. And for 8 o'clock on a Friday in the UAE, I'm not sure whether there's people who are just going, shush, we're talking work and I want to talk work, I want to party. Or they're going, you know what, I'd rather listen to somebody else working at this time because I'm extending it and making my weekend last longer. So Joanne, Rita and Rosemary have joined us in the audience. Ladies, what we're doing at this moment in time, I'll go through the rules of engagement, by the way, in a few moments, is if you can press the share button on your device and let everyone know that we're live. What we'll end up with is maybe a dozen or so people, maybe more, maybe less, in the group. And then we can get the conversation being quite lively. If we leave it to other people arriving because they go, ooh, shiny, they'll all start with the conversation after we've finished all those conversations and pretend it was really important that they get that bit in. Whereas if we get them in now, then it means the conversation grows. It does make sense to me. I don't know if it makes sense to Debbie. You know what I'm talking about. Aziza, you know. Joanne, you know what I'm talking about. So if you can just share with everybody that we're going live, and then once we've done that, we can get everybody into the group, and then we'll start talking about this big subject, which I think is a huge subject, and I'm really surprised I've not seen it come up more on people's LinkedIns and in their Instagrams and so on, because I think it's one of those things that if people don't address it, they're missing a major trick. Good to see Stephen joining us as well. He will contribute tons with that as well. So if everyone can just share to their feed in LinkedIn that we're live now, and then hopefully we'll have a lot of lovely people coming out to play. And I will be recording today's session as long as it doesn't crash, and I'll be feeding that out on our normal time on Sunday as a video. So you'll be immortalized, and everyone's going to say, "Was that you?" Well, nobody will say that. We'll just, listen if they do. So let's throw it to our panel at the moment. So Debbie, I'm going to throw it to you. You are an expert in EI because you've trained to be a coach and you know about, how to build people's lives up and stuff like that. You've also dabbled a little bit in, have I just disappeared? Did I disappear?
Okay. Yeah. It seems that we keep losing one another, and
Right.
Yes, my apologies.
No, it's my fault. That was Thanos clicking his fingers and getting a blip. I saw my whole screen disappear in front of me, which I think is what happens when computers die. That's what they see instead of a light. I was just talking about the fact that you've studied to be a business and life coach, and so EI is emotional intelligence is a major part of that. Now, in the last 10 years or so, emotional intelligence has become a really important part of every leader and every manager. They need to know how to be able to read what goes on in their office. And it's not just about you are getting paid, so you must do this. If you want to get the very best out of them, become a servant leader or so on, then EI or EQ, depending on how you want to look at it, is a very important thing. When you add AI to it, artificial intelligence, it's not just some words that, aren't worth a lot at Scrabble because they're only worth one vowel each. It's actually a really powerful combination. That's what I wanted to look at and how you can use it for your business. So I'm going to throw it open to the audience. Feel free to stick your hand up and come and join us in a bit. Love to know what you think. But before we do that, I'm going to open it up to Debbie and Aziza. What's your thoughts on this? And you can't say it's a rubbish subject because you are implicit in me broadcasting.
Okay, well, I mean, let's face it. I root for emotional intelligence all the way, as I feel it's an asset in any level, whether it's corporate management, small businesses, large businesses. It's a necessary. Then AI, let's face it, we're not going anywhere without it. So you would have to find a way to incorporate the two. So I think it can be challenging, but I think it can be done. So yes, I look forward to it.
Here's a question to throw in, and Aziza, you can jump in on the back of this as well. Now, when we talked about this in previous sessions, when we talk about AI, it is not a proper sensitizing, understanding thing like a human being. It is an algorithm that can be taught to recognize difference in tone of voice and words that you use. And at some point, it's going to use face recognition so it can tell when your face looks stressed and your eye movements and all the rest of it. So it's always going to be faking what is effectively EI. But does it really matter? When it gets better at doing it, does it matter? So, for instance, I've had a lot of fun with the upgrade of ChatGPT, which now you're able to interrupt, and now it sounds like a proper conversation. It says and ah, and it's a lot smarter and a lot more productive than the previous versions of it. And it really does feel like you're talking to a very boring person who kind of gets you. So it is getting there, if nothing else. What's your thoughts, Debbie?
Does it have to be a boring person? Is it only boring people that get us? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that talking to AI is like talking to a very boring person who's really focused on getting stuff right. But it's kind of predictable in a that's what I wanted kind of way. Now, here's the thing about it. When you talk to somebody from a bank, a real person from a bank, if you get the opportunity to talk to them, it's like somebody's just reached in and done an exorcism on their personality. Because they're only allowed to say certain things. It's getting monitored, it's getting recorded, and the odds are they're really boring anyway, which is why they work doing the job that they're doing. It really infuriates me when you wait on the zero and you wait for the operator, and the operator says, "Yes, can I help you?" And they say, "Can I just verify you as a person?" You're like, "No, you can't. You've already done that before we talked." And I mean, it's better than the time when we used to have that handy 12-digit number you had to type in while waiting to go on. So if you're driving in your car and you want to catch up at the bank, what are you meant to do? Look at you. Anyway, I digress.
Okay.
Let's get back to the AI thing. Do you believe that AI will ever be able to replace a person by being emotionally intelligent, or do you think it doesn't need to? It just needs to be able to combine.
I think it will be able to do both, if I'm honest, because let's face it, it's being programmed from, as you said, algorithms that we are putting into it. So if we are being empathetic and emotional in the content that we put out to people, then our AI algorithm will repeat and copy that.
So let's have a little chat about. I mean, Aziza, you'll be able to answer this even better than I can because you're the expert when it comes to programming platforms and websites that are interactive and stuff like that. So right now, and I'm happy to be wrong on this, when we talk about AI, it generally can do well personalizing the customer experience, and it's able to enhance what goes on by making great suggestions, but it doesn't really read people. It doesn't really do stuff off the cuff. Better decision making, maybe, but it needs to have a human to say, stop doing stuff like that. It's that combination for me that really makes it work, but I would hate to think that I trusted everything to go down to just being run by a robot. That kind of worries me a lot. Aziza, I know what you're going to say. Bring more on. It's easier. Get stuff done quicker.
Yes. So what is your question?
My question is, do you have fear, or how would we integrate AI and EI closer together to bring better results in the workplace?
Look, I think everybody has got to use their brains in a way where you need to distinguish which one you can use AI and which one you use EQ or AI. If you need to talk to your staff, then talk face to face, or have it on Zoom, or have a phone call, or go for a coffee or whatever. You have to be able as a human to distinguish which one I can use AI for and which one I don't want to use AI for, because you don't want to lose that personal touch, especially if you're running a company and you have employees, because if you use AI for everything, why would you have employees in the first place? So if you want to have employees, then you have to be able to distinguish which one is part of the business you can use AI for, and which one you use your personality or a human interaction for. That's my opinion.
Okay, I'm gonna move that on a little bit because you kind of touched on an area that I find fascinating. So you've got a human who's running the company. It's their company, and they're an entrepreneur. They're a one-man band or a one-woman, one-person band, and they want to extend it to having some outsourced people. So they jump onto Fiverr. They add a few more people to do specific tasks, but they don't have to worry about their insurance. They don't have to worry about having an office space. They just basically jump onto ClickUp or Slack or something and keep them all going. To keep tabs on everybody, it's probably going to be easier to have a second in command that is an app or or some kind of online. Supposing you got Slack or ClickUp and it was a bit more intelligent, so it was able to run through a task by asking questions and keeping in touch with every single one of your team to make sure that you go from A to Z in the amount of time that's been allocated. That sounds to me like a very good use of AI and EI that everybody could embrace, but I don't want to be the person that falls out with it because you're not going to get any joy.
Okay, my question to you then is, if you are using Fiverr, why do you need AI?
Because I only want at the moment, I would only want people from Fiverr to do a specific task that they do. So, for instance, everybody that I embrace to work with me on Fiverr would be a job description. I need you to do a video editing for me. I need you to edit this podcast. I need you to design a website. I'm not going to ask them to do lots of other stuff because that's a task that I've got to pay for separately. And also, I want it to be a human that's able to give the kind of like quality control that goes to it. Even if they outsource it to an AI, at least they have the final say, because I can turn around and say, that's rubbish, I'm not paying for it. You can't do that with AI. You just got to deal with whatever it gives you. And 99% of the time, it's not correct, but it is faster than the version you were going to give.
Correct. So if you are hiring somebody from Fiverr, obviously you're going to get somebody who's got past experience who's done the job that whatever you need to do. You have to give instructions anyway through Fiverr, right? So I don't get what you're trying to ask, to be honest.
I'm asking where the cutoff point would be for you relying on your business running from an AI artificial intelligence person. So would you be comfortable having a second in command who's AI, or would you be comfortable having the AI just basically telling you what to do and then you implement it yourself? Because if that's the way that it works, then it's still going to be done in real time. The whole point in getting AI in is to speed things up for you. So where does cutoff point come? And also, do you trust it to have emotional intelligence to be able to liaise with people without them thinking, I hate working with this guy, he's horrible, he's really rude, or he doesn't get me, or he takes off and it's not even that. It's an uncanny valley thing where you can tell when it's not real. Even now, you can tell when you're reading an article from somebody, it was written by ChatGPT, because it's too perfect and too bland at the same time.
Okay. In my opinion, I think that I would use AI to break down the tasks that I need to do, or break down the steps that I need to do. And AI would probably give it a faster step, so I can skip or integrate other things that I can use AI for, and I would do the implementation myself, or I would hire somebody who knows how to do the implementation myself, himself or herself or themselves. But
So-
with communicating with them, I will still stick to WhatsApp, email. I wouldn't want to use AI to communicate with them, even though I'm using a platform kind of a way. I don't want to rely on AI to communicate with them, because I might change my mind the last minute.
But AI wouldn't, and AI would keep it going all the way through until the end of task. So is that a
Correct. So
weakness
probably
on our
that's
part?
why. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Sorry, is that a weakness too?
Is it a weakness on our part that we can change our mind as it goes, or is it better to
No,
be single-minded like AI would be to get the task done?
no. You should always be able to change your mind. That's my opinion.
Are you
I
just
don't know
saying that
about
because
you
you're my
or
wife?
Debbie. No, no. I don't know about you or Debbie or anybody else in the room right now. What are your thoughts? But I say, as a human, you have every right to change your mind at any time.
Okay, well, we're talking about a lot of different generics here. I'm going to throw one particular area because I think it means we can actually focus on this. Let's talk about chatbots. So you have a chatbot, and your chatbot is on your website representing you. It's got a proper name, and it's got one of those things so it looks like it's moving when it's talking, and it looks like a real human being on videos talking to you. So you've got a chatbot. It's got loads of EI. It knows your business inside out. Would you trust that to liaise with every customer and be your customer facing side so you never deal with it? Question to you. And also, by the way, if you're new to our audience, welcome to our session. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. Feel free to put your hand up and join us on stage. The rules of engagement are very simple. Please do not go on and on and on and on and on about who you are and what you've done and all the rest of it. This is really about driving today's conversation so we all get a chance to brainstorm. And hopefully, if you've got a question for yourself that you want to throw to the audience, we can get to crowdsource an answer for you. It is on LinkedIn, so we are able to look at your profile very easily and see who you are. And if you haven't got it on your profile, then you should do, so we can know who you are and make it a lot easier. If you don't feel comfortable jumping on live, or at the same time you may be in a place where there's lots of noise, so you don't want to open up your microphone, just put your question into the comments section, and we'll address it and read it out to you and answer you anyway. So there we go. So, Debbie, chatbot. Would you be happy replacing yourself with a chatbot, or would you not trust it?
Pretty much, I think AI is still a tool. I wouldn't be comfortable with it managing any of my team. It has to be a tool which helps me. So it's assisting me. So even if it's a chatbot, then eventually it's going to have to communicate with a person. But it's not. It's a tool that's assisting the whole engagement, but it's not. It's not the be all and end all.
I agree with you. And I again bring up the conversation about working with banks. Banks have got the worst chatbots of all time at the moment, where it just sounds so lousy, so labored, so unreal, and also can't understand a word you're saying because it only responds to certain things. Now, that will improve. They will get their own ones done, which are a lot more interactive now, looking at what ChatGPT can do. And to be honest with you, as long as whoever I'm talking to, I can talk to properly, like I do to my phone, I've got ChatGPT on there, I'd be happy interacting with a bank that had access to one of those. But I'm not sure if I'd be happy giving it my honest opinion, knowing that it might well go out and be used against me in the future. Whereas with human, even if it's recorded, at least you can work it out as to what's going to happen next. So I'm going to throw it open to the people in the room. If you just joined us, nice to see it. Rita, Joanne, Rosemary, Peter, Jeremy, Stephen, and Zara. All of you have something to do with AI in some way, because I've talked to most of you before. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Would you replace yourself with a chatbot, or would you be worried that you'd have no clients and no staff left afterwards? See the silence. That's what happens.
Well, for our website, our chatbot is just directly linked to the business WhatsApp, which, to be honest, I would want to program it better to answer more frequently asked questions, because that's what I normally get. But like what Debbie says, if they need to speak to somebody where they can't find any information on the website, then they'll speak directly to me on WhatsApp. That's what I want.
You're not there all the time, and it's only during office hours. And we now
Correct.
have a world of different time zones.
Correct.
Are
And
you
your
happy
point
with
is,
that?
yes.
In any corporation, they open and they close. People will be understanding to that, wouldn't they, Dave?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't call a bank
Girl
in
power.
America.
No,
I'm serious. No, look. When we had the issue with the bank in America, we had to call in Dubai time late at night because there's nobody there. Because their
it was
office
1
hours
o'clock
are
in the
from...
morning, 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning. I had
Absolutely.
to call to
So
find out what happened to my money with Chase Bank. Thank you very much, Chase Bank.
exactly. So there's email, there's WhatsApp. I can answer back at any time. I mean, we have clients in America anyway, and the time zones are all over the place. So I don't see a problem with having boundaries.
I don't know. Having
I agree.
experienced that and knowing that one of the challenges with a bank, maybe not so much with other organizations, is that the verification thing. I'm based in Dubai with an account in America. Can you please, we're going to send you an email, all that stuff.
I hear you. I hear your grievance about banks. I think a lot of people will have that. I think they have to put that regulation. However, let me throw a question to you then, Dave.
All right,
if you have to deal with a UK bank via an AI chatbot, how comfortable are you giving all your information to an AI bot?
I'm not comfortable with any of it, period, because I think... Sorry, go on. You're asking my question. Can I finish? Because
sorry.
I don't believe that the banks are going to back me if they've got a problem at their end. If something goes wrong at their end, the customer is always wrong. And this is just my experience of banks forever. And it's really hard to hold a bank to task. Who are you going to complain to? Who are you going to get that's going to answer the phone? And what evidence are you going to tape every interaction you have with the bank? And then you can turn around and say, listen to this. This is what happened last time I talked to you. But you have no choice. If you want to access your money, that's how it's all being kept. That's why the crypto industry has become such a thing, because people got sick of working with banks. I'm not nodding crypto, by the way.
I think the solution is for banks to just have divisions in different time zones. But yeah, not to give it to AI to trust your world to when anything can be hacked.
Okay, so if we didn't talk about banks, but we talked about something else, let's just talk about let's talk about coaching. Let's talk about having the pandemic unleashed at least 2 billion people who've got mental health issues, who probably had many of them had before, but then you start realizing that you do have, myself included. I didn't realize how many things were challenging for me until it all came to a head after 2 years of not really working as a speaker. And so, who do you need to talk to? can you get a therapist? Can you get a life coach? Well, there's plenty of therapists and life coaches out there, but sometimes you just need somebody to listen to you who can go and ah and give you some suggestions. And it might be the fact you just need to know that somebody's paying attention. That sounds to me like a really good, advantageous way to start a business that's purely just an army of life coaches that are AI. Or the premium is a real person, but the lower level is free, or a tiny monthly rate is an AI that does 99% of a job because it's trained from reading all the books on life coaching by all the best authors that have written them. What's your thoughts
I
on
disagree. I definitely disagree. You can't have computers managing people who have real emotions, real feelings, real issues. You're going to need to have that empathetic approach. You're talking about counseling, you're talking about helping people that have reached out. A bot is not going to be able to do that. Sorry.
Shall we test it? Shall we test it now?
Hell
Let's put
no.
ChatGPT on. Let's just check and see how this works out.
Dave, you're talking about people with real problems, and you're saying that AI should be considered to be
I'm
a
not
way
saying
to help
it
them?
should be. I say it will be, and it probably already is now. Let me just share it with you now. So I'm going to go. Hopefully, it's not going to have a problem with the broadcast because usually at night time, everybody's on. I've got my phone, which you'll see on the video, being used to access my chat GPT, which in a few moments' time should be able to ring through. It might not. It might do. It's just staring at me in a really weird way at the moment, but I'm going to see if it can get it on. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to be able to ask it a question, which is all about mental health, right? So, hello, chatbot. I am now live on a LinkedIn call. You are live as well with your answer. I want to ask you a question. If I had a problem with my mental health, I was feeling stressed at work, and I felt that my boss wasn't paying attention to me, what would you suggest I should do? You're live on the air. What's your thoughts?
Dave, great question. When stress at work starts impacting your mental health, the first step is acknowledging the issue. Communication is key. Approach your boss with a clear, calm explanation of your concerns and how the current situation is affecting your performance and well-being. Suggest practical solutions, like adjusting your workload or flexible hours. Also, don't underestimate the power of self-care and professional support. Speaking to a counselor or therapist can provide valuable strategies to manage stress.
Stop. I want to ask you a question. What if I can't afford a therapist?
No worries, Dave. If therapy isn't financially feasible, look for support in other areas. Many communities offer free or low-cost counselling services. You could also explore employee assistance programs if available.
Okay,
Another option is...
What if I want to wear a red hat and people won't let me?
Well, if wearing a red hat is your thing and it's not hurting anyone, then go for it. Expressing yourself through your style is important.
Right, I'm going to stop it there. Right, so
that proves my point.
I don't know how loud that was, but could you hear it okay?
Yeah, no, could hear it fine, but I think that proves my point. There was no empathy. There was nothing real about it. There's nothing relatable. Nobody could actually pour their heart out and say, you know what, I really need your help, because you've given a robotic answer that is not relatable. And no, I don't see it happening. Not I mean, possibly in the way future, but not now. We still need human touch.
I don't agree with you, Debbie. I think at the moment, before anybody would, like, before ChatGPT was on, if somebody has a mental issue, the first thing to do is Google, and that's what Google gives the answer. That's exactly what Google says.
Yeah, but so that's somebody searching and looking for help. This is a way of something communicating with them, as though they are giving them advice. It's a completely different scenario. It's not searching. It's not aiding.
Yeah, but
the answers.
Have you ever worked with a rubbish life coach or a rubbish therapist where you come out of it and just go, I feel worse off than I was beforehand, or even I felt like the entire time I was giving them therapy rather than them looking after me?
I have.
I think we all have.
I have.
But I still don't see that AI at this. I don't see it as a replacement for that human touch, because you're going to need that engagement.
It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be a replacement. I think it's meant to be as a first step. if somebody is, to be honest, in my opinion, if somebody is having really a mental breakdown, they don't want to talk to anybody in the first place. They probably will shut down. And I think if they have their own personal AI bot, then they are comfortable with just talking to that at the very first step, and then ask appropriate questions, where I think that the AI can just guide them and encourage the person to go, right, you really now need to go see somebody, a therapist, and here's the one nearest to where you are at the moment. Obviously, that's not the answer you get from what we listen to, what Dave has just played, but chat's getting better at every second. So I think it will be better. It definitely will be better. And I'm just waiting for the day that it's not meant to replace somebody as a therapist, but it's meant to, as a stepping stone, to encourage this person to go, right, you have to see somebody. You have to go talk to somebody and have this thing sorted out.
I agree with Aziza, but I also think it will be there to replace the therapist. I don't think it's going to be. I'll tell you why. Look at the difference between healthcare before and after the pandemic. Before the pandemic, you had to go down to your doctor and say, my leg's fallen off. And the doctor says, sit in the waiting room and I'll come and talk to you later on. When the pandemic was on, it was much easier to see a doctor because you'd jump on Zoom and they would be able to ask you questions, check what was going on. And a little bit further on down the line, in places like Sweden, they didn't even bother going into a clinic. They're able to do a diagnosis of about maybe 70% of what they need to do just online, and then you could have the medicine shipped to you straight away. So the idea of updating it and teching it is already in place. I'm going to throw a question to you. I'm going to throw it to the people in the audience. Can we just do a quick survey of everybody in the audience? If you would be happy, and there's 12 people in the audience, if you'd be happy talking to an AI chatbot, if you needed immediate help as a therapist, then give us a thumbs up. Just checking with everybody now. There's a button for a thumbs up. There's one. Let's just see from a survey. One person says 2 people are happy to do it. Everyone else is either not finding the button or not caring about it. Okay, let's reset it. If you would be unhappy using an AI chatbot as a life coach, if it was specific and trained to be a life coach and had certificates saying it's studied everything that you need to know, if you would not be happy with it, then stick your thumb up and say not happy. Thumbs up for that. Is one person. Everybody else is either not joining in or they're not real. We've got bots in the room. Okay, just to check, resetting the room completely. If everybody else in the room can respond but hasn't responded yet, just to give me a thumbs up, let me know that you're still there. You just decided it wasn't a yes and it wasn't a no. Okay, so there's thumbs coming through. We just haven't decided to do stuff. Now, Sheikh is deciding to join us on stage. I'm going to bring you up, Sheikh. Please remember that we're sticking on subject here. Let me know what you want to chat about relating to this particular subject. How are you, Sheikh? You have to unmute yourself, bottom right-hand corner of your device, depending on your device. Hello. Still very quiet, unless you're a bot, in which case I would explain everything. Bottom right-hand corner of your device, and he's gone.
He's gone. Can I just jump in then? Right.
Of course you can.
When I wanted to go see a therapy, Debbie, say for example, 3 months, and I'm like, but this is emergency. I need to speak to somebody. How? I'm dying right now. Why can't I go to AI and help me calm down and think better and clarity? Let me tell you about my experience with this really rubbish therapist. I went there. I was really having a hard time. First thing she did, she called my name wrong. She called me by my father's name. Hi, Aziz. Tell me what's wrong. And I'm like, really? This is the way you talk to me? You don't have a warm approach. You have no EQ at all. You say you're a therapist. I just shut down. I literally walked out. I can talk to AI. Wrote my name. Hi, Aziz. Blah, 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 blah. Why wouldn't I? More than happy to talk to a bot to accept that.
I guess it also goes down to personal preference. I mean, in the odd event that there is no therapist out there and available immediately, then I guess we'll use whatever resources we have, but let's hope that it doesn't get to a point where we have to rely on bots to help us in our mental health.
Well, I mean, you remember years and years
Dave,
ago.
can I jump in with a view here?
Yeah, just give me 2 seconds to finish this off, Stephen,
Sorry.
and we'll go to you. So years ago, when people were stuck in snow on the Alps and in mountains, they'd send a St. Bernard with some brandy in a little barrel under its chin to find you and hopefully give you a drink and cuddle up to you until help could come. So that's effectively what we're talking about with this AI opportunity. We're not saying it's the be-all and end-all, but we are saying that it does fill a gap. All right, Stephen, over to you. What's your thoughts on this?
I think your question invited a yes or no answer, where it's actually probably more of a gradient, because there's 2 variables in the equation to put into the mix. The first is there are people already that are using bots for their own mental health, and have been doing so for at least 50 years. And that's men that use plastic blow-up dolls and women that use vibrators. It works for a number of people.
Wait, hold up.
Hang on, before, let me just finish the analogy with the second variable.
Okay.
The second variable is that AI is evolving almost weekly. Last week before, we had a new version of ChatGPT was released. Today, we've had yet another version released, which opens up a file for you to work on how to ask the questions better. Very interesting. It's evolving weekly at present. So, 2 key variables: the technology is evolving rapidly, and people are on a spectrum of those that could use an artificial technology. No, sorry, that's badly expressed. Can use an artificial source of help, in this case technology, and then the technology is evolving. So we've got 2 variables. Therefore, it's not a yes or no answer. We've got some people that a technology like this will help today, and in a year's time, 2 years' time, there will be a lot more people. Additionally, as it becomes more accepted practice to use technologies as an aid, there will be more people using it. Some will like it, some will hate it, some will be ambivalent. And that will change over time. So, Dave, I think you asked the question in a way that invited the yes or no response from Debbie. Whereas the reality is, it's actually far more of a variable answer.
Yeah,
I'll shut up now.
No. You had me at vibrators. I think that the question.
Yes, I need to jump in. About that. Since when that is an AI thing? Okay, now
I was thinking more of it as technology.
As a substitute.
It's a substitute for reality.
It's fake plastic. It's plastic.
Welcome to Happy Hour, ladies and gentlemen. We've gone to a different tangent than we did before. The original subject is about AI and EI, but we have to add latex rubber to the conversation today. Thank you to Stephen. Right, here's the thing, right? That question I asked
trust
about
me to have the alternative view.
Okay. The thumbs up and the thumbs down. See, we're even going in that direction. I didn't mean it as an innocent thing. Thumbs up and thumbs down. I asked it because I wanted to... When you give a yes or no answer, it's only a yes or no. It's a simple digital thing that you ask. I realized from the amount of people that didn't answer that it was a gradient answer and that people were levels, but you can't do that when you're asking the people to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So I agree with you, Stephen. It is a changing thing. as people are. And I think that what happens is needs must. When you go shopping, do you want to queue or do you want to go and get your stuff straight away? Well, it depends how much you don't mind queuing, what time you've got on your hands, whether it's the only way to get access to what you really need, and also have you got other things that you'd rather be doing rather than in a different queue or somewhere else. There's lots of moving variables. What I'm saying now is now we can throw AI and EI in with a bot. And I think that more people will use it than... Here's the thing. You mentioned earlier about the upgrades that we're getting already from ChatGPT, and there are other AIs available as well. I guarantee that Elon Musk and others are already thinking, how can we replace life coaching chatbots for people already? They're already looking at how you can get rid of housemaids by having a robot in your house. And they're thinking about the military version. The idea of just a simple discussion bot, 100% that's already part of the conversation. And there will be a version within the next 3 to 6 months that you will have problems distinguishing between a human being and actually just a bot. Load it up, as I say, with all the qualifications you need to be a very good qualified thought leader in personal development and also mental health. And I think you've got a really good substitute that most people would want. But I might be wrong. What does everybody else think? That's the reason we've got Speak on Stage.
Can I use this opportunity to make note of comments that have come through on the page?
Please do.
So from Jeremy, we have AI will eventually replace consultants, advisors to some degree, and secretaries. Agree? What are your thoughts on that, Dave?
Go on.
No, go on.
So sorry. I'm trying to change back to the page so I can see all the comments that are coming through, because if I press the wrong button, sometimes we lose everybody. I don't want that to happen. Got some great comments coming through. So as Jeremy says, will it replace consultants? I don't think so. I'll tell you what will happen more than that. And I'm only just a normal person, so I don't really know for definite. But right now, everyone's got a mobile phone that is more powerful than any technology that could send a space rocket to the moon when Apollo 9 and all the rest of them were doing their stuff. So we have the ability to take better photographs than anybody in time has ever been able to, and video, just from our phone in our pocket. But does that mean that you'd trust it to take your wedding photographs? If you turn around to everybody at the wedding, said, we're not going to hire a wedding photographer, everyone's got a really good phone, can everyone take videos and photos, and we'll take the best ones and use them for our wedding photographs? That would mean early divorce if you trusted people and went for the cheap offer. So I think that there's always space for professionals, for those that are willing to pay for professionals, because they don't want to take a risk of getting it wrong. I think that there will be it's like an uncanny valley. There's a gap between what you're happy to go with what somebody else programs and what you really need. I think in some ways it will change. If you go to a restaurant and you sit down for a meal, you're paying for the experience of going to a restaurant. You want somebody to come over and sit you down and get you some bread and some nibblies and choose the wine and all that. That's a dining experience. If you just wanted to buy it in a packet and cook it at home, it's completely different. So I think that there's space for everybody. I don't think that consulting will be replaced, but I do think there will be a cheap option. And I think it's a really good thing for that to happen, because it means that then other people get access to things that they would only normally have if they had a big budget. Thoughts on that around the panel?
Okay, brilliant. Let me just go on to the next one, and then so I can move off this page. The next one is from Joanne. Mm-hmm. Saying that she loves this conversation. Thanks, Joanne. She's currently listening as she's got somebody with her. She's coaching. So it's a conceptual answer from the robot you just did. It's not subjective. I wouldn't feel seen or heard. It's a blanket answer. Good points from the bot, but it's surface level. The right questions are needed. That's coaching. I like what Deb said.
Yeah.
Okay, I probably got that mixed all over the place, but thanks, Joanne. Thanks, Jeremy.
What Deb was saying there, which is very true, which is it's got an algorithm which it's responding to. But the new AI stuff, like ChatGPT is doing, is it remembers your conversations. So you are able to turn around and say, I'm having a bad day today, just like yesterday when I had to go shopping and I got stuck in traffic and I forgot to get my change from the cashier. And if you do that the next day, it'll say what? So it's a bit like the cashier problem you had the other day. Yes, it's like that. And it will build up. I don't know how far this goes in its memory because I'm sure it still, hallucinates. But it starts to remember conversations you had. And that's when it becomes really, really good. Not perfect yet, but I think it's only subjective because I threw it at it just then. But if I was to start talking about things on a more regular basis, I think it would be able to do what it needs to do. But also, I don't maybe want it to do much more than just be there and make me feel better when I'm stuck in traffic. Sometimes that's great.
I don't know. I think this is always going to be one of those controversial conversations. So let's take it back to where we started. How to combine AI and EI to boost leadership and employee engagement. Can it be done?
Well, I find a lot of the leadership that we have at the moment to be incredibly rubbish at the moment. So we have leaders who are in charge of tech, who are probably the smartest tech people on the planet, who have very little emotional intelligence anyway, because they make decisions and they say things that hurt people, and they don't care because they're crazy rich, and they only tend to knock about with other crazy rich people. So I'm not convinced that leadership is fixed by that anyway. I'm looking at how your average person can be better at what they do by having this little tool make it easier for them to do it. That's what I'm looking at.
Okay, so I would agree that you can combine the personal touch with AI if, as a leader, you are taking responsibility for whatever is coming out of the AI as the tool, and then you implement to your team accordingly. That's my viewpoint.
Yep, I'm happy with that. Anyone else got some questions? Anybody else want to make some comments? It's nice to Rita, who's been saying as well, she thinks it would only work if the expectations were communicated clearly, that it's just an AI to provide perspectives and options only. Well, I agree with you, but here's the thing. I mean, how many times are you really talking to a best friend who knows you really well? And how many times are you just talking to somebody who happens to be there doing the job that they're meant to do? I think that when you start looking at the fact that unless you've got history with you, you're always going to be in a situation where it's artificial and you get the best out of it that you can at that given time. And if so, let's cut the price right down and make it a robot. Because at least then you can walk away without worrying necessarily whether it's going to start telling everybody else what you've been going through and so on. I'm quite cynical on this, I guess, but I think there's a lot to be said in that. I'd love you to know your thoughts. If you don't want to join us on stage and you don't want to say anything, then please feel free to type it in. We will go through every single thing that you put in the comment section because I think it's a really important way of understanding. Now, Sheikh has said he wants to come back on stage again. I don't know if he's going to be able to. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Sheikh, if you are on stage,
Hi.
there you go. All right, how you doing, my friend?
Can you hear me?
Right.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. All over to you.
Okay. Thank you, Dev. Hi, guys.
Yeah.
This is Sheikh Mohammed Numan here.
Okay, go on.
So I've been hearing you guys in this discussion. I'm having ideas. Everybody has their own perspective about the AI and reservation and thoughts about it, which is good. It's okay. As Dev said lastly, that it's all about the regulation and the leadership. Where you live, how serious the leadership of the country is. Like we live in Dubai, and Dubai is a hub for the capitals. The people are coming over here. The United Nations event, the leadership was in States, and they met Elon Musk and the other leaders of the States regarding the AI. This theme and this trip was mostly focused on AI, and they have been inviting the people from across the globe, bring something Dubai which is impossible for you. That means that the leadership is quite serious over here, and creating the invention, having some invention in the AI. Of course, it would reduce the human work. Definitely, it's gonna have some crazy things in future, but it is kind of against the capital empire as well, capitalism. That where people get easy job to do. Like one of the guy, a German friend of mine, is got a AI based PowerPoint. Just write down the subject and it will prepare your entire PowerPoint segment, whichever has been given to the kids, which is amazingly productive time for the students in the universities and in schools. And rather they spend 2-3 days to prepare the presentation, they just make it like in a jiffy, a few seconds, and the rest of the time they can do something more productive. So it's all about thought process, that how people can make the benefit out of it, or how people can take it as against them. Like somebody asked that it can eliminate the consultants. Well, not exactly, because consultants are still have their own exposure to develop themselves as a consultant and help the people who need them. So it's kind of something we can take the benefit from rather being against of. We must go with the technology.
I'm going to throw a question at you, Sheikh, because I've known you for a little while and we've bumped into each other at various events around the world. So, did you said you went to the big one that had all the big hitters at it, which I think happened in Saudi recently. There's Elon Musk and I think Zuckerberg was there and all the rest of it. Without naming names, because clearly we want to stay alive, did you feel that everyone had our best interests at heart, or do you feel that had the best interests in their finances and also their technology at heart once you were seeing what everyone was talking about on stage?
Well, again, it's all about the interest of the nation. That's why the people go out of the UAE and bring the people who are having innovative ideas. And like
No, that don't get off on that one. You've got to answer the question: were they there for the people, not the nation? Because the nation generally means the government, and the government generally means the finance and success of the country. I'm talking about the people, their mental health, and everyone's lives being better. Did you get the feeling that that's what everyone was driving towards, or was it purely about the tech and the growth of tech?
well, it is going to be better. Obviously, the first one, it is going to make the life easier for the people.
I'm not.
Diplomatic answer, maybe. I mean, appreciate all views and insights, including vibrators and blow up dolls. But say, will it or won't it? It doesn't feel like you're convicted in your answer. Do you believe that this conference that took place was for the benefit of people in general, or for those that were
I do
actually on
think
the
so.
stage?
I do think this is in the benefit of for the people.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, well, I'll be glad to see what happens as a direct result of that. I host a lot of events all around the world, and I do enjoy seeing what people talk about. And I've got to say that most of the time, 99% of the time, people share things that you just go, oh, that's going to be interesting. And that's why they're invited to speak on stage. But I think that in terms of AI, and this is why it's a concern for me, and I think it's also a concern for many people as well, and that's why we've got quite a nice group of people being here. At some point, AI is going to be there as a cheap alternative that never gets bored of listening to you, to a human being that's going to charge by the hour. Now, at some point, it's going to be almost indistinguishable. It'll be smart enough, it'll be knowledgeable, it'll be better than many cases, just like it's replacing people in accounting and replacing people in programming and in lots of things like that. But will it have enough EI, emotional intelligence, to be able to look after somebody? Let's put a twist on this. If you break down in tears at a therapist's, they will stop what they're doing and they'll be there for you. How does that happen with EI and AI? Will the chatbot say, are you okay? Or will it say, you haven't answered anything for a little while, I'll assume that the conversation's over? Whereas being able to attend to somebody, if they have an emotional response that's really deep, especially on the call, online, or on a phone call, is a very important part of any therapist's toolkit. Debbie, your thoughts on that, because you're a therapist and a life coach.
That's not fair. Oh, listen. I personally, I feel that AI is moving at a pace that is too fast for a lot of people to be able to catch up with, and it should just remain a tool. That is exactly how I feel about AI. I don't feel that it should be taking any therapy sessions, as it doesn't have the capability or the programming yet, but even still, it doesn't have the empathy and it never will, because it is just an algorithm and a program.
Right, before we go to Greg, I'm going to challenge you on that. How many people have you met? And I'm going to talk about ex-partners, right? Ex-partners who had no empathy or maybe had too much empathy or who were bonkers or who are psychopaths and all the rest of it. Don't tell me that AI, at least if it's programmed, isn't going to play better than some of the people that we've gone to, you know what? This isn't going to work out. How's about I never see you again for the rest of our lives, which we've all been through. Greg, great to talk to you. Greg's been on my radar and vice versa, and we've been LinkedIn friends for years now. There's a first chance to talk to you now. How are you, my friend?
Hey, great, Dave, and a lovely conversation you're hosting here, so thank you.
Appreciate it, thank you.
So you brought up a really profound point, and I'm a huge AI a fan, and I use AI about 6 hours of my day for the last 6 months. But you brought up a really good point, and that is that profound moments of feeling that come up in conversation that is not the words, it's what happens after the words, and it's what we're feeling. And what you brought up, I think, is really, really insightful. And I think the AIs are all built on large language models, which are predicated on words. But when you break it down in tears because something that someone said, or even what the AI has said, and I've used AI to coach me, and I've been in tears by what it has said to me, but it is not cognizant of my reaction and the profoundness of my reaction. And I just wanted to compliment you on bringing that piece up.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And here's the thing, and I'm sure you'll be able to say this from your own experience. What we've just highlighted is just another tweak to the algorithm. If they do not say anything for a few moments and you can't hear anything, go into "Are you okay" mode. And let me check in on you. Are you going quiet because you've got nothing to say? Have I said something that offended you? Or would you like me to go over it and take it from a different angle? Now, that's me just off the top of my head pretending to be a chatbot. But I think all that is it hasn't been programmed in yet. Now, here's the thing. Why is it not being programmed in yet? Because possibly the people that program it don't give a monkeys about stuff like that. It's not on their radar, and so why should they ever do it?
Well, I think it's not that. I think it's the data. I think it's just inhaled the last 10 years of human data, and we don't have human data on sobbing and grieving and catharsis. Where is that data coming from?
What, a pandemic?
Well, no, the moments of sobbing, grieving, and catharsis is not captured in the digital world, is what I'm saying. So how could they build algorithms on it unless in the near future those moments of sobbing, grieving, and catharsis, for example, is somehow captured by the digital world?
I understand exactly what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, and you're right, but what I'm saying is, if you were to become a life coach and you were to become a therapist, you would start talking to somebody who's teaching you and training you, mentoring you, coaching you, and at some point we're going to talk about what you do during an abreaction. So, for instance, as a hypnotherapist and a stage hypnotist, one of the first things I asked about is if somebody goes into hypnosis and I couldn't bring them out, how do you deal with that? And what you do is put your hand on their shoulder and you say, I know you're really enjoying this right now and you're going very deep, but I'm not going to let you go this deep again in the future. So I'm going to count from 1 to 5. And on count of 5, you're going to come right out of this and open your eyes again. Otherwise, I'll never let you go into this deeper trance again. And there's never been an occasion where I've done this on a stage show or wherever where they haven't snapped straight out of it, having been in silence and just in a world of her own for like 30 minutes up until that point. Now, that's one of the things I asked about because I'm human. I ask those kind of questions. But whoever's programming, you're right, it might not have come up with it and algorithms, but don't you think it really should have?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Aziza, your thoughts on this? Because you've suddenly opened up your mouth. No?
No, it shouldn't. No, they shouldn't add it because that's where you distinguish between a bot and a human.
Well, I'm sure it will come. Zara, you just joined us on stage. I'm sure you're going to say something that doesn't make sense, but I love you for it anyway. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Do you hear me?
I can hear you, unless you're a bot.
See,
Wow, I'm glad I
at
opened up the mic.
the end of the day, thank you, Dave, for putting me up on stage. Aziz,
Well, that was
everybody, Debbie, Greg,
just
you're right.
hear. Yeah, Zara, get on with it because your
No?
the reception's a bit rubbish.
Call and but I know. Look, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, no one truly knows how hard you hustle for what is yours. You are the champion, Dave.
Right, I'm gonna try and guess
But
what it was you were
sleep, we have
saying.
lost pressure to do it for us. We have, and it's not going to replace what maybe people.
Right, if you were to get a bot that was going on in reverse, it would sound a bit like that. Zara, I'm
I
going
was
to say
saying
something. Can I get you to type your answer?
that how much sleep we
Can I get you to type your answer?
have lost.
It's cutting out quite a lot. If you can just type it, then I can make sure that we can read it out properly for you. So if you just type your answer, and we'll get around to being able to give you the proper credit without it being like the mic keeps cutting out. So there we go. So here we have Zara, who's a really smart guy, really nice, great conversationalist, but his internet's a bit rubbish today, and his reception's a bit of a challenge. Now, we are able to go. He's not being offensive. He's not being funny. It's just that his internet's a bit funny. So let's choose a different way of doing it. That involves a number of different human interactions and decision-making processes over many years. I know he's not hijacking our podcast. I know he's not trying to waste time. I know that he's got something to say. So the next thing is type it in and we'll look for it and we'll give you a chance to come back again. Now, that's a number of different things that people can do, but right now algorithms are not able to even think about. So will they be able to? Can you combine the AI and the EI, as they say, to be able to create proper leadership, or are we only looking at creating a more efficient Mr. Spock, a second in command, or somebody in charge of operations so humans don't have to do it for you? Thoughts on that? Panel, of which Greg's just joined.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I agree there because I troubleshoot with AI all the time, and it often points out the solution paths that maybe I would have thought of, but it just offered it much quicker. And I think in this case, if someone is speaking and you can't hear them because it's garbled, I think it's perfectly reasonable to see AI suggesting to type in the comments instead.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's something that comes from experience of being on radio and comes from experience of knowing people. And it also comes from the fact that you have to be able to get the ability to profile people when you talk to them. You do it face to face, you do it also online, and you do it when you get some kind of challenge. If you walk into McDonald's or a fast food place and the person on the other side asks you what you're after, and as you're talking to them, they start sharpening a knife and staring at your throat, then that tells you maybe you're not going to get your McDonald's. Maybe you should run a mile away. I'm not saying this happens at McDonald's. It could be any fast food chain that has a serial killer working behind the till. So there's a number of different things that come together at the same time to be able to understand what makes us human. What I'm saying is that might be a challenge to be able to put that together for us all. Now, I'm going to throw something up the room before you jump in, Greg, which is we normally do an hour only of this particular podcast because we want to make sure that when we do it on a Sunday, we don't take up too much of people's time. But I'm quite happy to extend this for another half an hour if everybody's happy to be in here. I know that it's a Friday, so you've probably got lots to do. If you wanted to continue for another half an hour, stick your thumb up and we'll continue. If we get enough people doing it, then we'll keep it going. If not, we'll thank everybody and we'll run away and come back at a later date. So thumbs up if you're happy to keep going. Aziz is a yes. Greg's a yes. Debbie, were you a yes? You can actually say yes, that's good. And Eamon and everyone else. Oh, Stephen's in there, he's waving, he's ready to go in there. Okay, so we'll keep...
Apology, yes.
Okay, so that's fantastic. We'll keep it going for another half an hour of this particular conversation. So, Greg, you were going to jump in on something when I started doing that survey. What was it you wanted to say?
I forgot. I was just listening to you. Sorry.
I have that effect on many people except the wife. Stephen, you just joined us on stage again. What were you going to say? You wanted to add something to this. Please don't talk about vibrators and all the rest of it. Let's try and keep it relatively clean so I can put it onto YouTube without getting blocked. He's got nothing to say. That's all he wanted to say. Sex toys. I'm sure that's not the case. So if anybody wants to add something, please feel free.
I think I could add something. I mean, I would like to follow the conversation, but I think at this point we're at a juncture. And I think when I hear people, even on this conversation, who are fearful of AI or concerned that it's doing what we have learned and struggled to learn and become experts on for so many years, I think there's naturally a lot of fear and like, what does this mean for me? And what does this mean for the industry? And how shall I deal with this? And I think what I'm experiencing is all of that, but my savior in this is having fun and diving in and experimenting and exploring and playing and creating. I've created maybe 40 or 50 GPTs now that do different things, everything from coaching me to analyzing my transcripts and providing feedback on what I've missed and angles I could have taken. I'm even now trying to code, even though I don't know how to code. I found some AI that is going to basically write code for me, just I have to speak English to it, that's going to listen to my conversations live and provide side chat, cue card kind of comments based on how I've trained it. So it's listening for certain things and providing insight, almost like having an expert at my side that's providing real-time insight into what we're talking about. And I'm just building this myself only because it doesn't exist yet. And I think it's so exciting to see that we're in a massive time of change. And instead of running away and hiding under a rock, I encourage people to play and explore and experiment. And I wanted to see if you agree with that approach.
Greg, you're my hero. I completely.
Can I just step in? I mean, I compliment you on having fun with it and going for it full throttle. But why 40 to 50, Greg? If you don't mind me asking, do you need that many?
Oh, yeah, because each GPT has a different purpose. So I built one GPT so it analyzes transcripts and summarizes the conversation in 5 distinct parts, from the risks to the goals to the challenges. So I needed to program and tell the GPT to listen for certain things and summarize in a certain fashion. That's a different GPT than a GPT that I use, say, for to look at someone's website and break it down in 12 components, from what problems does it solve to what do they want the user to do. So I'm basically realizing that GPT is great, but you need to train it to focus it to do certain things. And that's where I see this co-intelligence, this collaboration aspect to the future of how we're all going to be working with AI as partners, maybe silent and not so silent partners in getting shit done.
So you proactively use 40 to 50. Can they not be merged into maybe 5 or 10?
I'm not sure what would be the benefit of that.
That you don't have 40 to 50 separate.
Well, it's almost like these are tools. These are different tools. And my fear is it's almost like you having a screwdriver to do what you want a hammer to do. I have one GPT that I created that helps me write emails. And I've trained it to write in a very persuasive, compelling style of email. And I've baked it and trained it on a knowledge base of a lot of content, but it's focused on email writing. So it would be a shame if I combined that GPT with one that helps me, coaches me on sales conversations, because it would be almost like diluted and it would be a mixed bag. And I'd get a lot of hallucinations when I ask it to help me.
No, I mean, I was just curious. So I just wanted to clarify, because for me, that just is like a whole lot of things to juggle, but well done.
You're like the AI police there, but you're telling him off. That's hilarious.
No. That wasn't my intention at all. Honestly, I was genuinely curious.
You're not allowed so many toys. It's not your birthday.
No, it was just
Well,
curiosity.
Well, I think it's brilliant. I think it's a great idea to have 42 like different GPTs to do different things. It's like you have a company and you hire this person to do just email writing, or this person to just do this and this person to just do that, and not overwhelm the person and overwhelm the staff. I think it's a brilliant idea. Well done.
Well, thank you. I've seen growth in my business as a result, and it's hard to directly attribute it to AI. But I've since February of this year, I've literally seen month after month, I'm double what I'm earning now than what I did in February. What I'm doing in February, and it's going up. And I think it's because I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's because I'm getting a lot more done with a lot less friction, a lot less time. And
Absolutely.
I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
And I think from a leadership and a business perspective, I'm also doing workshops in companies to helping executive leadership embrace AI and play with AI. But what I'm realizing in doing these workshops is that the CEOs are clueless, but the employees that are trying to get their work done, they're the ones that are actually using AI to be productive and to be creative and to deliver better work. And so they're doing it, oblivious to the CEO and the leadership team, but they're using AI anyway. And so I think there's a real disconnect in organizations now between the people that are actually doing work and being creative and being responsible to get it done, and the leadership. What are your thoughts about that?
I love it, and I think that's a great point. I'm going to throw this open to Stephen to comment on in a minute on this as well, because you've talked about the fact that your average big boss doesn't care. Your average big boss, well, they do care, but they don't like to get their hands dirty on what's going on with the troops. The troops do it. But what it does is it kind of disrupts the career path of everybody internally, because if you can do jobs that are now about 3 or 4 steps above your pay grade, then why are you working for somebody else? Why don't you start doing that on the side as a side hustle and start doing things that you can actually do to earn money better, which means in short term that people who are running their own business can do really well, like yourself, like myself, because they can add AI to it. But it also means something that it's going to be difficult for people to be pinned down in their job description. I'm not saying anyone's doing it now or everyone's doing it now or it's changing, because you'll be able to be more efficient and do lots. So why would you need to have a supervisor praise you when you do it? So that throws in one other area, which I think is kind of chilling, which is, if that's the case, and we are talking about disruption, we are talking about the workplace changing considerably, then does that mean that we're going to have a load of companies that do collapse because the employees choose to leave them? And because their job title is something that they're creating themselves? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to be unhappy, and I think there's a lot of unhappy people now working for companies. But I also see a doomsday scenario that if CEO leadership really gets AI, they get the power of AI, they could actually inhale every single email that has been sent by, say, a team of 20 people over the past year, and then ask the AIs to basically replicate that job, look at the outputs, analyze everything they've said, everything they produced, analyze their strategies, their approaches, their perspectives, come up with essentially with a summary of what that person's value was to do. And then, day zero comes when the CEO fires everybody and replaces them with AIs. Now, I hope that shit doesn't happen, but I can imagine it happening, especially for people who are just doing their work and trying to do great work, but they're not adding that fifth element, that element of their deep perspective in their work. I think those people are at risk.
I agree with you, but I mean that happens in everything. I mean, when you start creating, cars, the horse-drawn carriage system is going to disrupt, and it's going to be very difficult. Do we still use horses? Yes, we do, but not at the level we used to. And everyone's got a car, but this is going to happen. I think that what we're going to find is going to be a lot more people interested in going into space and doing stuff for on other planets, or going into quantum or so on. I think it just becomes a natural progression that we all have to deal with. Not necessarily that we're all going to lose everything. It's going to become more difficult. Initially, that's going to happen, but I think that the economics will pan out and make it a lot easier. I'm going to just quickly go to a couple of the comments that have been made here to make sure that everybody gets the feeling that we are paying attention. And feel free to add comments to it, by the way. Abu Sadiq has said that blending AI capabilities with emotional intelligence allows leaders to enhance employee engagement and motivation. AI provides data-driven insights into employee sentiments and performance, while AI fosters empathy and understanding. I completely agree with that. In fact, I'm just going to check very quickly and scan it. It says this combination helps leaders tailor communication, support development, and address concerns proactively. And as a result, employees feel valued and heard, leading to a positive workplace culture. By recognizing individual contributions and promoting open dialogue, organizations empower their teams to thrive, ultimately driving productivity and resilience in the face of challenges. Was that you or a bot that put that, Abu Sadiq? I'm sure it's you anyway, because you're a very smart person. But I also think that if it wasn't you, I know it was, I'm not disrespecting you, then it was a great answer. And I think that is part of the point, because you can get great answers without having to do too much. And maybe that's what we should be looking at to make things move faster without being so scared about what their end results could be. Now, Stephen, you've been on stage for a little while. It's not like you to be quiet. So is there anything you want to add to this contribution? Because I know that you specialize in AI. In fact, we all kind of do nowadays. But you will have a unique perspective in the disruption that goes into the workforce and organizations when AI gets more integrated. He's not saying anything for now. Okay, well, I'm sure he'll jump on stage when he wants to be able to do that. I'm going to throw it at Greg, then I'm going to throw it as well at Debbie and Aziza. And if anybody else wants to make some comments, I know that Rita's said some things with respect to whether AI should be used to give direction and manage resource tasks. I don't think humans would feel fulfilled by taking direction from AI. That would lack human feelings and human relationships, which is innately very important to people. Before you say anything, Greg, the reason I left my jobs and I've worked for myself and my wife for the last 30 years is because most of the people I had as bosses were, excuse me saying, idiots. And they had a lack of emotional intelligence and a lack of interest, or just not very good at what they do. So, yeah, that might be true for AI, but at least it's my choice. Greg, over to you.
Yeah, well, Dave, just frame that question one more time. I just want to make sure I...
Well, we were just saying that, it was Rita Fenari was just saying that if you were taking answers and direction from an AI, you would rebel against it. And I'm saying that I rebelled against it anyway, because I didn't like taking answers from idiots. But AI would be closer.
Yeah, no, we've all had idiot bosses for sure. But I think the nature of intelligence is that it does not seek control and it does not seek domination. And I think people do. People seek to control and people seek to dominate. So, and the shitty bosses that I've had, and I'm sure you've had too, they're just awful. My interactions with AI, I don't sense any need to control, or I see just an abundance of ideation and possibilities. And it's up to me to sift through all of that and to decide, to take a perspective, to take a choice, to make a choice, and to be responsible, take responsibility for the choices that I make as a human, as a person. So I don't see the conflict there. I don't think anyone will be in the near future put in a position where they have to obey their overlord unless they're driving a Tesla and the Tesla's driving.
Yeah, but that's another conversation, and we start going down that particular route. Here's the thing. We haven't been in that position yet, Greg. But who's to say that we haven't got that on the horizon? Let's take, for instance, and I don't want to point out certain richest people on the planet who might have their own social media platform, but if that person decided that he wanted to lean in a little bit further, we already know what happened with Cambridge Analytica, and the data that was used for Facebook was used to make elections happen. It's not that far from that, and that was humans doing it. That was before AI really got into its swing. If you are then able to use AI to get people to do anything you want, which, let's face it, it's not that difficult if you're running a social media platform, you could influence people, you can scare people, you can get people paranoid, you can get people to pay money. It's already happening with hackers.
Yeah, no, that's 100% happening now.
So I think that we're already at that stage now. We haven't had a country that's crashed or a company that's crashed as a result. But I have no doubt there's lots of people who've lost their savings because an algorithm or a bot hacked their phone, hacked their accounts, got all their details, and shifted their money.
Yeah. So what's your point, Dave?
My
Well,
point is, when we're talking about the fact that you made a point which was very valid. I don't think it's there to take over from us. I don't think it is there to take over from us. I think it's only there to do a job, but in the hands of the wrong people, it will do that job and take over.
oh, 100%. Superman, the mythology, he came from outer space and he landed as a baby in the backyard of the Kent family.
True story.
And but could you imagine if Superman landed in the backyard of some nefarious son of a bitch? Of course, that's happening now. It's going to be used, and it is being used for bad things. But I guess my point is, so what? Technology and innovation has always been used throughout history for bad things and for good things. But I think, I'm very optimistic on this. I think the net is a general positive. People generally will use this intelligence for good, like maybe 51%.
It's all about the American elections. Let's not go there for a start. But we could be talking about, something as silly as the story of the three little pigs. One who built his house of straw, one built it in sticks, one built it on bricks, or built it on sand. But the point is, when something like this comes along, some people will be protected and some people won't be protected. Right now, AI is being used in warfare, and 60 countries said we will never do it. But we've already got machine guns turrets on the top of these
Hey,
virtual
so
dogs. Sorry, I disappeared. Go on, Debbie. You fill up.
no. I was just trying to fill in, but we didn't actually catch what you were saying.
Okay,
Although I would like to say, whilst I've got the stage, and I'm a little bit concerned about the 49%, Dave. Greg, go on, Dave.
Go on then, Greg. Fill in the 49%.
No, the 49% throughout history, absolutely. But don't be concerned, because if you compound day after day, year after year, that 1% or 2%, that's how we get now. We're 2024. People are living longer. People are dying less from disease. Technology has helped people, bridge gaps in health, and people are living better, generally speaking. Of course, there's bad things happening and shitty situations, but generally, I'd rather live now than in 1904, 1919. I was in the hospital last week with a bowel obstruction. I'm grateful for, just basic things like IV fluid to hydrate me. I don't think I would have survived 100 years ago. So I think, generally speaking, things have gotten so much better, and I think our minds, our amygdalas, or whatever, just gravitate towards the negative so naturally because that's how we stayed alive as a species. But I'm just so optimistic about the future.
I agree with you in many ways, but I'll just throw in a slight sidebar on that. I remember a conversation I had with somebody. It was actually something I think we had in this podcast. If you had a time machine, how far back would you allow it to take you? And for most black people, it would be 1980. Because any earlier than that, it was pretty shitty all round.
Yeah, well, in 1941, I'd be in a concentration camp in Nazi Germany.
Right, there you go. So that's one angle. The other angle I wanted to talk about was about the human error thing. And I remember listening to a podcast recently, and we talked about it on this session, where there was, the whole thing about the red button with the nuclear codes, and when you press it, it means that it's set that the opposition was. In those days, it was Russia versus USA. The opposition is sending all their nukes. What are we going to do? And there was one stage where Russia had been alerted that America had launched all their nukes. And there's one guy who was in charge of feeding what happens next, who refused to believe that it was actually happening.
Oh, I heard this story. I
Yeah.
heard this.
He refused to believe it was happening, so he wouldn't give the go-ahead for the powers that be to launch a preemptive strike against America, and it showed itself to be a glitch in the software, and he was right to say no, and that's why we're not all dead, because you know how long it would take between the pressing of the button for the nuclear bomb and for us to be dead worldwide.
Yeah, no, I heard that story. It's a wonderful story, and I think that guy spent the rest of his life in Gulag or something terrible like that.
Did.
But we owe our lives to that guy.
100%. We'd all be dead in about 70 minutes after the launch. That's how bad it is if we launched nuclear weapons around the world. And we're putting them in the hands of human beings. And at some point, AI is involved in this whole thing. It's kind of scary. So when you say, and you're right to say, I think we'll be okay, I beg to differ a little bit. I'm scared a little bit, but hopefully we'll be okay. We've got roughly about 6 or 7, we've got about 8 minutes left of this conversation. And I'm just wondering where we can take it, because we've talked a lot about AI and EI integration and about leadership. We've talked about countries and the way that they would react if we've done this as a whole session. If your country was run by AI, would you feel comfortable? And a lot of people surprisingly said yes. So I'm going to throw a slight curveball into this conversation, which is if you were to hand your life over to an AI-ridden world where you don't have complete control, but you do get some input, would you be willing to do that? Let's just ask that question. Debbie, Aziza, Greg,
Hell
everybody
no.
else in the room.
Hell yes.
Definitely
There'll be no
not.
racism. There'll be no criticization about, because you're a different color, you don't deserve this position. I'll be like, I can do this job. And the AI will just see my experiences and based on what I've done, not from my name, not from my skin color, not from where I'm from. So
Okay, maybe I misunderstood the
open.
question.
No, in fact, you didn't. And I'm going to counter my beautiful wife with this, because the big problem here, and it's something everyone can look up, is AI bias. And that comes down to who's been programming the AI. And AI is predominantly racist and sexist and a number of ist things because of the way it's been sweeping what's on the internet, and it depends on whether it's got guardrails put in it to make sure that it doesn't go down a certain route. And when it has got those guardrails in, people say it's too woke. And Grok, I think it is, which is Elon Musk's AI, has got none of those things built in, which is celebrated by him and about 10% of his people, and that's kind of worrying. So Aziza, you're right, it may not have it, but right now it still does. And I'll tell you where it comes in, and Greg will be able to back me up on this. So if you're going for a job interview and your name is Musama Neminimini or something like that, some name that isn't a conventional, sought after name.
White name.
I didn't want to say that, but a conventional recognized name, the odds are the AI will not pick you and put you onto the shortlist. And this is a current truth. Now, I worked in many organizations where when they had a load of job applications that came in, the boss, if he had a big pile on his desk, would split the pile in two, drop half in the bin, and then go on to the other half. Now, AI, thankfully, isn't doing that, but it is doing it a different way. So I'm not convinced that racism would disappear or sexism would disappear. What I would say instead is it'd be a lot harder to be able to say that was racist or sexist, because you can't open a black box of the AI programming and say, look, that's where it went wrong, because you can't have a look inside the system. Thoughts on that? Greg just disappeared off the stage. Must have gone to the bathroom. He's back again now.
He's come back.
Aziza, what's your thoughts on that now? And also Debbie, and I'm sure Greg's got a few things to add into that too.
Let me think about it. Greg, go on.
Wow. So there was, I'm going to pass for a moment so I can gather my thoughts.
Okay, I was talking about the fact that there's lots of evidence that biases are built into the system.
Okay, yes. Okay. So I would argue that the biases that are built into the system represents not a fatal flaw of AI, but a temporary problem with AI. That if you look at the six finger problem that you saw in images, and you look at the hallucinations that were happening even 6 months ago, they're gone now. So I would think and I would hope that the biases that we see is a problem because of the data that it's fed and the training. But the data and the training it's like a river. The river is flowing and the data is being nourished and fixed. And I see that as a temporary problem, not a permanent issue with AI.
I would agree with you only if the fixers are trying to produce something that's equal for everybody. And most cases, they either don't notice these challenges or it's not really on their radar to worry too heavily about it. Supposing we take a benevolent, lovely programming person like Mark Zuckerberg, who's clearly a lovely man. He might not really care about programming that when he's more interested in what it can do for his ads on Facebook.
I understand, but that I see as a 1 year problem, not a 10-year problem. I think it'll be resolved in it's not a permanent issue.
I do agree with you. I do think it's something that's going to change in time, but meanwhile, during its teething, it's going to be an issue. And when we talk, I mean, I don't want to go down the race route, but redlining for accommodation and the bank loans, which was instigated in the 60s in America and in the UK, deliberately by the government to get certain places with certain people living in them, was a policy that was done. Did it change years later? Yeah, it did change years later, but the damage was already done. You've got ghettos and you've got people who are inheriting the property from their parents because the parents were allowed to have property that you could sell. Now, years later, the problem is still there, but it's just not so obvious. So
the issue I have with, I mean, I would just say, look, you're right. These biases are flawed, and it can and will create bad situations for some people. But I think to put all the attention, the people like sensationalize these biases and like, oh, we can't use AI because it's bias. And I think that's sad because it marginalizes the power and the possibility and the productive nature that AI can be for people. And I think that, I believe, if you dig a little deeper, it's a delay tactic that people have. It's like, instead of today, I'm not going to actually open up ChatGPT and create a GPT or an Explore with ideogram or any of the 19 billion other Cambrian explosions AIs that are out there. I'm going to delay this, and I'm just going to say I'll do it next year once AI actually fixes this bias issue. And I think that's a tragedy. And I think it's a trap that people fall into. What are your thoughts, Dave?
100% with you and got that, Greg. 100%. We should all embrace it. We should get stuck into it. We should change it and make it better. And we all have the right to turn around and say it's not my version. Or you can now start to program it to be a bit more like the version that you want, as you're clearly doing with the GPTs, and I'm doing as well. So I do agree with you, and I do embrace it. And then that leads into a whole new conversation about what the press is reporting and the way that we have people's consciousness about what AI does. And that is another can of worms for another time. So we're not going to go near that because it's just going to keep us going for another 2 hours. So on that, final thoughts from everybody. Zara, I would love to have you on stage, but we're not going to be able to because I've no idea what you said last time, but we love you to bits.
I want to say, Dave, you are a master choreographer for events like this. I want to thank you for hosting and leading this conversation. It was so much fun.
Oh, you're a sweetheart for saying that. Thank you very much. And thank you for coming on, the voice of reason, and sharing some perspective. So I didn't feel I was going to get bullied by Debbie and Aziza, which I normally do get. So at least it was great to have you in my corner, if nothing else. And you can come back again. Aziza and Debbie, do you want to give a final thought on today's session before we put it all to bed?
I would like to officially say that Aziza and I do not gang up on you. We simply express our views, and we happen to be in cahoots a lot of the time. Nothing more. So thanks, that Greg made you feel like it's a level playing field today.
Okay, so at the end of today's session, when I feel like I'm being battered with a big bag full of estrogen, then that's not the case. I am happy to say that, but I'm not convinced.
Just wanted to say thank you to everybody that contributed today. It really has been thought-provoking, and it has been fun to see things from multiple views.
Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Absolutely. Thanks, Debbie. Thanks, Aziza. Thanks to Greg as well. And thanks to everybody else who contributed, whether you type stuff in like Rita, Abu Sadiq, Monica, and also Joanne and Jeremy and various other people, Ayman as well, or you actually jumped on stage and said it. Everything is valid, and we will be going back to our normal time in about a week's time, which should be on a Sunday, an afternoon. In fact, we'll probably have to do a survey, because I kind of like it like this. This time on a night time is fine. If I haven't got a gig, then it kind of it opens it up to our friends in the US to be able to jump in. It's probably a ridiculous time for them, but at least it's doable. So maybe we should try out this again, but we'll put it to the test and see how it goes. For everybody else, meanwhile, if you'd like to be involved in the stuff that we do, we've got a WhatsApp group, which you're very welcome to join. All the details and contact details for the programs and the WhatsApp group, which is absolutely free for the WhatsApp group. That's going to be available in the comments section. Please come and join us. We've got about 400 plus incredible people in there from all around the world. And whenever we do any activities, we put it in there first. I don't tend to put it out to the general public, just to our insider group there. So you're very welcome to join. And as long as you're not a bot, then we'd love to have you in there. Meanwhile, for everybody who's stuck the time and been here, Aziza, did you want to say a final thing before we said goodbye?
No. I actually wanted to just say that, this time I think we had a lot more interactions and a lot more people listening in. So I was just wondering whether this is a better time rather than Sunday at 1:00.
Well, I know that the final decision that gets made will be you as my wife as to when I'm allowed to go on the call. So we'll have that debate. We'll throw it up into the group as well. But I kind of like this. This felt refreshing. And as long as I've not got a gig on a Friday night, then I really did enjoy this conversation. And I felt it brought out the best of everybody. So we'll watch this space and we'll see when we're going to return to this in the future. I know that I've got GITEX coming up in 2 weeks' time, and that's going to lead to nighttime work. So I don't think I'll be able to join at 8 o'clock. But we'll see. Maybe long term we shift it. Meanwhile, thank you to everybody for being on this call. We will put together the best of this as a video. I do video these sessions, and I'll be sharing it with the group a little bit later on, maybe tomorrow. And so with that, thank you very much for coming out to play. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I hope you got as much joy out of the answers as I got, which is kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if it's going to get better, but I do feel that as long as we've got some incredible people like this who are guiding from their own point of view and making us all go in the same direction, which is to make the world a better place, at least I have trust in humanity, which maybe I didn't have quite so much in before we start this podcast today. So I'm going to let you all go off and do what you need to do. Lots of love, lots of respect, and we'll catch you next time on Speak on Stage. Thank you, and bye-bye.